Hello, friends and readers. We are going to continue to discuss point of view while looking at the story Basketball Ballet. When we are determining our point of view, we are distinguishing what the narrator or characters are thinking, feeling, saying, and doing, right? So, point of view is kind of like what the character's opinion is about either other characters or events that are happening. So, as we read yesterday, we were looking at the point of view from the different characters in the story towards one of the main characters, Brady. And as we looked at our story, we knew that this was mostly about a new kid coming to school. This student played baseball, basketball, and he also did ballet. Well, some of the boys, Jordan, Aiden, and Emilio, had different feelings or thoughts about Brady doing dance or ballet. And when we look at this, we see that each of these characters thinks about Brady or feels a certain way about him. So, our first character, Emilio, was going to let Brady sit with him, and he felt bad for him because he liked Brady, but he didn't want to be picked on, right? So he liked him, and he said, he's my new neighbor, and his point of view was Brady's kind of nice, and he liked him. But then there was Aiden. Aiden, at first, in the beginning of the story, made a really rude joke about how dance class is for girls. And he laughed with Jordan, which made Brady feel bad. So Aiden's point of view at the beginning of the story was he thinks Brady is weird for taking ballet's classes. And then we had Jordan. He wouldn't let Brady sit with them. He tells him to sit with the girls. And he really just dislikes Brady. His point of view is that he doesn't like him and he doesn't want him to be near them. These events occur at the beginning or the beginning and middle part of the story. So Emilio's point of view is he likes Brady. Aiden thinks he's weird. And then Jordan just does not like him. Each of these characters are in the same story. They're experiencing the same events, but they each have their own point of view. Remember, as we talk about point of view, you can have characters that have their own opinion and feel a certain way about someone in the story. They do not all have to have the same point of view, just like here. They don't all like Brady, just Emilio does at first. Emilio doesn't think he's weird, but Aiden does. Their points of views are different, and how they react and how they treat Brady are all different from one another's. So when we look at point of view, that's something we really want to pay attention to, is how characters can feel or act differently towards each other. So that wraps up what we were discussing yesterday. So today we are going to really be looking at who is telling the story. So a narrator is a person who tells a story. A narrator can be a character in the story or the author of the story. So a narrator is really someone who is telling the stories for others. When a character is telling a story, a lot of times we refer to them as the speaker of the story, and then we refer to them by name. So when we look at stories, we are thinking about, well, who is telling it? So here's some examples. A character is telling this story. The character uses the words I, me, my, and we. I love my big sister Ava. We do everything together. When Ava lets me play with her toys, I am always extra careful. So these words I, me, my, and we let us know that a character is speaking. When an author is telling a story or a narrator, the author does not use words like I, me, my, or we. They refer to the characters by their names. So Megan and Ava are sisters. They do everything together. When Megan plays with Ava's toys, she is always extra careful. So, we have the narrator referring to the two characters as Megan and Ava. Again, we've kind of discussed this. If I was telling a story, I would say, I went to the park this weekend. I would not refer to myself as Miss Baba Carhill went to the park. But if someone did say, Miss Baba Carhill went to the park, that would be someone else telling my story or a narrator. So by looking at this in our first section of text, I love my big sister Ava, we do everything together, we can infer that Megan is the one telling the story here. But when they are referring to Megan and Ava are sisters and they do everything together, this is where the narrator is speaking. When we identify a narrator, it helps you think about who is giving the details. So today we're really going to look at who is speaking in this story, Basketball Ballet. Well, let's quickly discuss who our characters are again and review. We have Aiden, Mom, Brady, Miss Simpson, Emilio, and Jordan has a little role in this part. And when we see these characters, they are not all telling the story. We need to determine who is telling the story. So we see there is a new kid in our class. I told my friend Aiden as we hung up our coats. This I tells us that one of the characters is telling this story. And it is not Aiden. I told my friend Aiden. Aiden would not refer to himself, so Aiden is not the person speaking in this story. How do you know? Aiden asked. He moved in next door to me, I said, sitting down at my desk. Mom and I brought muffins over yesterday. So this is being quoted. So Mom is also not telling the story. And it says Mom and I brought muffins over. So this character is related to Mom, and we don't know what their name is yet. Class, please welcome Brady Walker, Miss Simpson said, while my neighbor stood beside her. So the teacher, Miss Simpson, says, this is Brady Walker. She introduces him. So Brady is not telling the story either. Miss Simpson said, while my new neighbor stood next to her. The character telling the story refers to his teacher as Miss Simpson. So this is not Miss Simpson telling the story either. So we have gotten rid of Aiden, Mom. We've gotten rid of Brady and Miss Simpson. So far we're only left with Emilio. So let's see where we meet this character along the line. So class, please welcome Brady Walker, Miss Simpson said, while my new neighbor stood beside her. Brady, tell the class something about yourself, Miss Simpson said. I am from California, said Brady. I have a dog that eats all my stuff. Everyone giggled. His dog sounds just like mine, I thought. I like basketball and baseball, and I take dance classes. Dance classes, yelled Aiden. That's for girls. The whole class laughed, and Brady's face turned bright red. That's enough, said Miss Simpson. At lunch, Brady walked over to an empty seat at my table. Hi, Emilio, Brady said to me. Thanks again for the awesome muffins. Can I sit here? Finally, we see what the speaker's name is. It says, can you sit? He went to sit at my table. So we see that the narrator, or the speaker in this case, is talking about himself. And then it shares what Brady said. Brady said, hi, Emilio, Brady said to me. So we now see that Brady is saying hi to the speaker, and the speaker's name is Emilio. So we know now that Emilio is sharing his story and telling the story. The I and the while my new neighbor sat beside me, and the my's and the I's all tell us that Emilio is the one who is speaking. Those pronouns are helping us understand. We eliminated other characters because the speaker refers to them by name. I told my friend Aiden as we hung up our coats, you would not refer to yourself or say my friend Miss Baba Carhill if I'm speaking about myself. So when you are reading stories carefully, take your time to look at the pronouns and pay attention to who is speaking. Sometimes it's characters in the stories, other times it's a narrator telling it from an outside perspective. So you are going to take your time and think about the different points of views in this story today. And now that you know Emilio is telling the story, you can pay attention to how this story develops and how Emilio feels at the beginning and at the end of the story. So go ahead and get reading.